Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of the Viking Chats podcast. I'm delighted to be joined today by Paul Conway of Yuno. Paul,
Good to see you.
how you doing, pal?
Very good.
This is going to be quite a short episode on Viking Chat terms because if you stick a Viking and a Scot in a room,
It's going to get wild.
too much talking happens. So this is going to be a shorter episode than normal. But let's crack on.
Fantastic.
So, Paul, for those who haven't met you before, who have no idea what Yuno is, let's get into that quickly. So, a quick bit about you and your journey to Yuno. Let's start there.
You want me to go all the way back?
I mean, in like a Hollywood flashback, like quick scenario.
Okay, fine. I'm ex-oil.
Let's go for the top hits.
Yeah, I was ex-oil industry, onshore, then offshore on oil rigs. Built a portfolio of properties in Scotland because they're all about £5 each. Then came to London. I did 4 property developments in Chelsea. Thought it was really cool for a while. Then created a co-living company in southwest London. So I was at Clapham, rent-to-rent model, but done nice with like parties and, like essentially like imagine like a student coming, they've just came out of university, they need somewhere to live in London.
We work, but home.
We work for home. There we go. Problems of
We home.
Yeah, we home. We should go to work. We called it Caledonia. Basically just called it Scotland.
I can't imagine why.
Yeah, exactly. And then through that, we were like, this is an absolute disaster because we started a few properties and like, okay, cool. We're from the oil industry. We understand fire and planned maintenance and compliance and stuff. And then like we spoke to one council. I'm like, okay, right, let's just fit. And then we went into another council. Like, this is an absolute disaster. Like, why is it different? That makes no sense. So then, and then from there, we're like, well, now that we're really cool and we run property development in Chelsea and, and a co-living business, we thought the best idea was to then run a compliance business.
I mean, why not?
Yeah, exactly.
You were just looking for that sexy other job on your resume.
Need to sex this shit up a little bit. So that's what we did. And then me and business partner went our kind of separate ways. And then we had created this consultancy business that originally started with in Hammersmith and Fulham, getting license application done for Marsh and Parsons and Douglas and Gordon. That's
Nice.
where it kind of all came out. We
And
started
how long ago was this? When was this roughly?
8.5 years ago. Yeah. So the business has been going for quite a while, predominantly as a consultancy business to start, and then about 4 years ago we started building the data set on really complicated legislation around licensing and planning and all the rest of the stuff. We integrated to Repit. Savills became our first client with that Repit integration, and then we built an enterprise solution for them integrated to Repit, and now we're everywhere.
Nice.
So that's it. That's the whirlwind tour.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us on the Viking Chats podcast. Told you it was going to be a quick one. So, look, you and I sat down before this because I wanted to have a look as base
Under the hood.
for Yuno. You and I have known each other for a few years. We've always talked. I've always known fundamentally what you do.
Yeah.
And the area that you operate in.
Yeah.
But until this morning, didn't have a really detailed understanding of that. And obviously what that offering does evolves, particularly with what you've built out. And it was really good to see your tech today. Mm-hmm. So look, I'm aware we're on a really short time frame. So I want to make sure we kind of get into what I think is the more interesting stuff of what we've talked about this morning. So look, so I think if an agent has heard of you before, they will fundamentally be, oh, right, cool, you're a property licensing platform. And I think that is a big hook of what you guys are.
Yeah. Because it's what they understand is their highest risk problem in their business has just got exponentially more complex to kind of understand and solve. And it's a huge risk and they know they need to solve it. But it's the next steps that we talked about today.
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, I don't think there's an agent out there that is in any way a fan of any property licensing schemes. But I think as more and more schemes are rolling out, we're all getting exposed to more of them. Working in London like we do, we've got a relatively small portfolio, but across quite a broad part of London. So we deal with 8 different boroughs.
Yeah.
And the joys that brings. And as you highlighted, we've not just got to know the ridiculous nuances between those 8 schemes, just in terms of the technical requirements. But they keep on rolling out new schemes, as you highlighted as well. A lot of them also roll out alterations or updates to their schemes, which aren't necessarily all that visible or obvious as they happen. And yeah, the reality is, looking at the licensing landscape, I wouldn't be surprised within the next 5 years if pretty much all UK PRS stock is licensed.
Well,
That wouldn't surprise me. I mean, it's just that kind of perfect storm of councils desperately need money.
Yeah. I mean,
it's a license to print money. They've removed the initial kind of cap where it was meant to be 20% of housing stock.
Yeah.
Obviously, it was that last December, wasn't it? Where they went, fuck it, do the whole thing.
Yeah. They used to have to go to government cap in hand and say, can we run a scheme?
Which they gave exceptions for. Newham got whole borough. But you had to go to Secretary of State, didn't you? They had to ask for an exception.
Yeah, but now you can just print the money.
Now it's and with councils the way they are, it's going to happen. I saw Slough announce the other day they're looking to do every property. And look, I think fundamentally, actually there will be a cleanliness to that. If in 5 years' time, if we're in a landscape where every rental property needs a license, at least you will know. I've got to have a license. You might not understand what that license is. Exactly, but yeah. So what I found really fascinating though is you talked a lot in our chat before about complex compliance. Jesus Christ, you talk a lot. So when we were having our chat, and again, having that chat is really interesting because I like to think of myself as pretty well informed on the lettings legislation, but also the tech side of things and kind of that balance. And at base, a lot of what we promise to our clients is that peace of mind. The fact that we are on it. We understand what all those nuances are. And I think what was really interesting in our chat is a lot of what you talked about, some of it is already in place and some of it, you're obviously laying the framework for what's still to come. And I think that there's I would estimate maybe 10 to 20% of letting agents are aware of not just where we are now, but what is coming down the pipeline the next kind of 5, 6, 7 years. And the vast majority aren't. And the point is, right, there is just more coming. Right. We've got decent home standard. We've got AWABs. We've got MEs. I mean, those are just 3 quick ones.
And you've got increased funding for councils, more ability to access technology that finds problem properties. The rule that allows them, if they find a problem, they can just go into a full entire letting agent and go, right, show me all your books and we'll find all your problems. Like why would you go after one? It's like, for example, like, why do we work with businesses? We want to build a relationship, we want to work over time, and that we can get a large amount of stock into our system and it makes sense.
Well, and also the restructuring of fines as well, right?
It's
not just the landlord they can come after now. The agent is very readily looped into that. I mean, there was culpability before, but they've made it much easier now.
Exactly.
And every director as well, not just the business. Like you've got 2 directors, 5 directors. Every single one of those faces a fine. It's exponential risk, right?
And it's actually on that person with inside the business. And why would you go try and find one landlord when you can find an agency that's 200 properties?
Exactly.
And you can go in and rip it apart in 2 seconds. Like and I think that a lot of people, I mean, like I was speaking to a lawyer that I met at the weekend in the industry, and she's already seeing that sort of thing over multiple councils. Oh, we've got a little nibble over here that our agency just got this audit, this landlord, etc., etc. And like, we've always been in an industry where it's like, okay, so what? Nobody's enforcing on this stuff. I can't. But show me when me or the guy down the road gets a fine, and then I'll.
And even when they do, I mean, I shared a stat the other day from NRLA about, they're not even at the moment. They're not even getting half of the fines that they've issued to landlords.
Yeah.
Because again,
but they'll get it off an agent.
Entities, but a commercial entity.
Totally different.
So, look, I think agents are getting so much thrown at them at the
They're
moment.
getting hammered.
Like within lettings, particularly, that, you know, sales has got its own challenges, but
Yeah, of course.
sales isn't my bag. I tend to kind of leave that to other more experienced people to work in that. But lettings, I think we're in this kind of perfect storm at the moment where it's both a blessing and a curse what's happening in the industry, right?
What do you mean, but from like a professionalization perspective?
From a professionalization perspective, I think generally I'm an advocate of compliance and regulation and technicalities in under that dream umbrella where it is fairly and evenly and effectively enforced, which doesn't exist as we know at the moment. But fundamentally, I think it's good. And I think from an agent's perspective, when you're looking at the value, why would a landlord pay us 15 to 20% of their income to look after their properties for them? And if you're looking to justify that, well, the more complex, the more technical that comes, coupled with very real consequences. As an industry, there is a massive opportunity for us to kind of elevate ourselves from how we are currently perceived broadly by the public as kind of this annoying kind of thing that gets in the middle and pushes rent up and you know, just sticks a property on a property portal and pops a tenant.
If rent doesn't go up, how is anybody going to comply to this legislation? I don't understand.
I mean, the cost to tenants are categorically going to keep increasing. You know, and let's hope the returning matriarch of legislative changes in lettings at the moment doesn't get too trigger happy about these conversations about rent controls, and that's a nightmare conversation for a totally different day. But what I really loved when we were sitting down, you were walking me through the platform, was I don't think there aren't many products at the moment where I look at stuff and not only is it technically sound, but I look at it and I'm like, wow, like there is an operational, not gap in our business, but there is a substantial operational burden.
Exactly. It's like how you're solving the problems,
which is exponentially growing.
You're solving the problems. It's just that, and you're getting to things, and you're doing it over time. But I know that you're a big advocate for technology, you know, and the way that you run your business, the way that you are in the market, the way that you run your own technology business as well. But at the end of the day, you can do all of this stuff, but you could just do it a lot easier. And if you build that operation into the infrastructure of the business, then it's just very much around getting the right action to the right property manager with the right information to tell the landlord, this is what you need to do, why you need to do it, how often you need to do it. And then we're not talking about 20 grand of training bills, we're not talking about admin, we're not talking about spreadsheets, we're just talking about turning up the next day and knowing what you need to do.
Thing is, you see, I think the interesting thing that I had when we were going through your platform was that I'm going to slightly disagree with you in terms of I felt up until looking at your platform that, you know, a small business like our agency could and can and does and will manage that compliance complexity. But I think actually what was really interesting having our chat is, and as is always with these things, it's the edge cases, it's the nuances, right? That's where you get caught. That's where you get tripped up. You know, we've had it with. I mean, they're going, but we had it with the government how to rent guide. You know, they just randomly issue a new version without really fucking telling anyone. You know, this sort of thing. And what I found really fascinating chatting with you was, you can talk about property licensing and we all fundamentally know what that is. But what was really interesting talking to you, working in this space, is it's the updates, it's the boundary changes, it's the fact that that councils suddenly add a new type of property license to their thing with seemingly little or no
communication on the
proactive communication of, you know, oh, you're a Hackney letting agent, by the way. here's our update to say this is being implemented in 3 months' time or whatever. So I think up until kind of now-ish, yeah, I would argue with you that a smaller independent agent could, with good training and the right people in the business, can manage it. But it's technical, it is complex, it is tricky.
You can manage it, but can you manage it profitably? Because that's the key. All of our margins are getting squeezed. So at the end of the day, it's like whether you can or you can, it's can you do it profitably, and that's the kind of the element that we're essentially trying to solve with.
Yeah, and look, I think the fascinating thing with and this is probably one of the first podcasts we're doing where I'm talking a lot about product. I mean, it's the first one where I've done a demo before going straight onto the podcast.
That's good.
But I don't normally talk about product, but I think seeing your guys' platform, you know, it's a bit of an eye opener. Like I said, like we believe ourselves, we have faith in ourselves to be a highly effective technical agent. We also are very proactive in looking at where the market's going, and that's partly probably because of the tech business as well. We need to know where it's going. But you know, we go to TLIC meetings and all this sort of stuff, so we know what the government are kind of planning. We know that there's like I think there's currently like 7 big pieces of legislation coming down the line in the next like 7 to 10 years. There's going to be more chucked in there as well. That's not going to be all there is, and all of that is just layering and layering and layering on top of this stuff. And I think the overlaps and technicalities, and we're also going to have tweaks to the Renters' Rights Act as this goes on, as case studies come through and they learn things and need to tweak and adjust. We're going to have that adjustment within the space as well. I actually think we're getting to a point where the big boys could do it manually because they've got the resource, but why the fuck would they want to? But they could. I genuinely think we're getting to a point in lettings where I'm not sure that a small outfit like ours, like a 1-2 branch, like 5 to 10 person team, lettings operation, I don't know. I feel like we're at the cusp, and definitely within the next kind of 2 or 3 years, I think we're getting to a point where I think it will be almost impossible to do that manually. And be 100% compliant. I think the amount of iterations, changes, and like I said, overlaying complexity, it's going to be tech or it's going to be scale.
And
I don't think there's a middle in there. And like I said, like my understanding of Yuno up until this morning was at a very high level, like, oh, it's property licensing, and I got the value in that. You know, I was talking to you. We've got a landlord, thankfully a letter-only landlord who we warned, but we've got a landlord at the moment who's in a sticky situation with a new licensing scheme that he wasn't on top of. You know, and I'd kind of come into the meeting being like, oh, you know, it would be nice. It would be a peace of mind just to have that running and being like, oh, by the way. But I think what was really fascinating talking with you and looking at the reports, and I'm not going to do a full fucking pitch on the podcast, but the reports and stuff you put through, as well as kind of getting ourselves to where we've got to as a business. Again, this is talking about base. Part of that journey the last few years as well has been about educating and informing landlords. So we had a really interesting bit in the demo where you were talking about a feature to me about these beautiful, highly technical reports you do, and you were like, but you know, you don't need to send those to your managed landlords. And as I stopped you and was like, actually, could disagree more. Like, great that we educate our lower service clients on what they need to be doing, and either they do it or that maybe means they reconsider a higher level of service with us. But I think, like I said, agents have this constant battle of trying to prove our value. And I think one of the problems you have when you're a good agent, one of the biggest problems you have is you make it look too fucking easy. Whether that's sales or lettings. You know, we've all seen it, you know, where a sales agent launches a property that the last 2 agents haven't been able to sell, you know, and they go to market within 3 days. they've had 50 people through the door, they've got 3 offers above asking price.
Yeah.
And and then the vendor turns around and is like, oh, but but you've done that really quick. Like, do I have to pay you 2%? And it's like, yeah, because the 1% you were going to pay the last 2 didn't get you. So we've had this before with landlords. I've talked about it on a previous podcast. One of our larger portfolio landlords that we look after. I remember a few years ago he'd asked us. He'd bought a couple of properties in Oxford, and he was like, "Would you look after them?" We're like, "Absolutely not. We're London." No. But he called us like a couple of weeks later, like really proud of himself because he'd let them himself, and I was like, "Cool. Really happy for you."
Yeah.
Let me look after you. Let me just run through it. And that phone call was a real opener for us because as I went through this list of have you done this and have you done that? And when you did that, did you do this? And have you done that? And have you checked that? Yeah. And there was about a third of the way through the list, he went, you do this on every single one of my properties. I was like, we ain't finished yet. And yes.
Yeah.
Landlords don't know what they don't know.
Yeah. I think one thing
and that's in terms of technicality, but also what you're doing.
I think interesting you picked up there earlier on about that we have a potential client that's speaking to the council and they says, oh, we don't know if you need your service because the council have been really helpful. It's like, yeah, sure. So when you
because they want to know which 50 tenancies aren't compliant.
Exactly. Who goes to the police and tells them about all the problems they're having? It's a stupid idea.
So I've got this criminal empire.
Exactly. That's what's going on. So yeah, councils are trying to engage with landlords, trying to engage with letting agents, and I get that. But at the end of the day, especially from a letting agent's perspective, everything's rosy in the garden. Then your landlord doesn't do something. And then the council know, and it's happened so many times, where they know that that property is to be licensed because you just told them about it. Yeah. And then in 2 months, it's like, oh yeah, so we gave you a bit of time, so now we're just going to enforce on it. But our landlord's not communicating with us because he's abroad and he's not going to pay this and that. And they're like, yeah, but you're contracted to manage the property, so here's your fine.
It's a mandatory piece of compliance.
Yeah, it's wild. It really is. Just a warning about how friendly councils can be.
But look, and I think also, I said for landlords what they don't know, they don't know. Again, also within agencies, let's face certain truths. We know that there is not enough training in our industry. There are agents operating within our sector who have a very basic technical knowledge of the compliance elements. And whereas up until fairly recently, it's not necessarily right, but you could kind of, based on enforcement, you could kind of dice roll and be like, as long as you're looking after the big ticket stuff, the likelihood that you're going to get slammed, I think now, the likelihood you're going to get slammed is exponentially rising. Plus, as you've got the powers of a council to come in and literally just order you to cease trading.
Yeah.
They don't have to give a reason, as we know, because that came in December, wasn't it? That was the first implementation of the Renters' Rights Act that came in December, just before Christmas, joyously. What a Christmas present that was. Not that I've heard of it. I haven't heard of it happen yet. Have you heard of a council actually walk into an agency yet under those new powers?
So not directly.
Not that I expected to name who they are.
Not directly, no. But I was speaking to a property lawyer at the weekend, and she's seen it happen.
Yeah.
I think that I get it. Like, I run a business. I know that there's loads of rules we need to all to comply to. It's like, okay, let's pick the ones where I've seen other people get enforced on it, and that's been the case. I was like, why do I need to do this? Because I've not had a fine, and nobody else has had a fine that I can see. And then you can see that all that won't affect me. Then you're taking a little bit more risk. But now where we are is that the powers have changed. The money for enforcement has changed, and the appetite has changed. As in, councils need money.
And look, and I think, again, coming back to agents, like, what you don't know, you don't know what you don't know. And if you're not going on constant technical training courses, if you're not turning up to the quarterly Lettings Industry Council briefings, where briefings, as you know, we've both been to them many a time. I enjoy going both as a supplier and as an agent, because it is, getting briefings direct from the likes of Lord Best and MHCLG and all that sort of stuff. It's nice to know
I think
where their head's at and what's coming down the
especially
line.
where it rather than it waiting to hit your desk, having that kind of like knowledge of the journey along the road and where it came from and how it's all put together really helps you.
Well, we've, as an industry, we've got to stop being as reactive as we are.
Yeah.
We're not great at being like, this is where the industry's going, great, let's be prepared before it happens.
Yeah.
And I think the Renters' Rights Act is a perfect example of that. I can name several Facebook and WhatsApp groups I've been in immediately before and immediately after that, where there were agents being like, anyone got a tenancy agreement they can share, anyone got business terms they can share. We used to charge renewal fees. What's everyone doing about this now? Like, we've got to get better at being like, right, that's coming in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 2 years. What is our path through that? And I think, and I think with compliance, I think a lot of letting agents, and again, because they start small with small books, and when you're looking after 5, 10, 20, 30, 40 properties, it's really hard to have that architecture in your business.
Yeah, and it's knowing, as you say, is knowing what when to start that journey, but then what to adopt first. Like I went into a franchise of one of the major partners that we've got, and I could see the sheer panic in his face that he needed to talk about some other solution. But I also was in his office where him and another 5 people were just having a laugh, and I was like, cool. So what we talking, like 6 times 60 grand? Bums on seat cost in London, but you don't understand the technology or any, you're not adopting technology to a certain level. You like to see these people in front of you doing something, which they weren't, and they were costing a hell of a lot of money. And so like, I can see that especially from a small business perspective, it's like, it's a huge amount of comprehension. As you say, you see the enterprise level businesses. Obviously, Loman just converted over to Yuno, and we've rolled it out, which is super interesting because it's an enterprise business, but it's local businesses that are operating independently in a lot of ways, and it's really interesting to see how they all do something.
A lot of them are businesses within businesses. You've got your executive board, which is chief strategy, but fundamentally, and particularly within some of the franchise businesses as well. I mean, it's well known that Winkworth give their franchisees pretty much full scope of have what CRM you want, have what partner you want. You do you build your business. So there's lots of different bits and pieces there. So look, we are pretty much out of time already. That has flown by, our little half-hour short one. But look, I think. I was fascinated this morning.
Thank you.
I really, I really loved it. It was a lot more technical and a lot more detailed than I was expecting. And I don't know why I expected less. But I think probably because I'm used to, both as an agent, but also a lot of suppliers as well are reactive. Again, looking at the Renters' Rights Act, there were quite a lot of suppliers that were releasing stuff quite close to the implementation. I've been talking to various suppliers about making tax digital, like that we've known about for a while. That our industry has been a bit lackluster at really having really good solutions for that. So I think what was interesting for me seeing your one was it was dealing with what's now property licensing, HHSRS, all that sort of stuff. But I can see on your roadmap and all the stuff built in, you've already got features leaning towards AWABs and MEES and decent home standards. And there is so much information we're going to have to relay to landlords now in a very clear and technical way. And also the other thing I didn't realize as well, which we haven't touched on because we just haven't had enough time, I also thought you were very much just a licensing compliance facilitation platform in a technical, like, here's the problem, now go and solve it. What I also didn't realize is that you guys are actually also one of you, a large part of your offering is also you have the solutions. So for every problem we have a solution for it. I think that
as you say, it's easier to talk about licensing, but then you have the next step. So we've got to get planning in a good place. We've got fire safety. We've got the building safety. How you're looking.
And
at
again,
all these things come into it, and how they cross over to a flat and a house. It is overwhelming.
And again, coming back to smaller businesses, that thing of, again, if you're a big business, you know, you're gonna have 500 properties that need a fire rated door installed. You're gonna have scale, so you're gonna be able to go to a contractor and go, dude, in the next year we need 500 fire doors installed. Great. You're running a portfolio of 40. You need one fire door installed.
Yeah.
How much time are you going to finding that contractor? And as we talked briefly again before it, you know,
knowing which contractor,
getting your local chippy to go and stick in a door from B&Q isn't really going to cut the mustard. You know, and so it's not just identifying it. Again, that was another real surprise to me, is I had no idea you guys had this kind of resolution framework. Which again, I think for agents, what scares them is we know as agents that we need to have our head around this stuff. But it's that can of worms, right? It's like, I almost don't want to know.
That happens a lot.
I've got 400 compliance issues that I now need to sort out, but I also have no idea who the hell I'm going to use to actually fix 200 of those.
Well, now you know.
Now you know. So, dude, we've run out of time. I would have loved to have talked more. Like I said, it's a very different one for me, because I haven't talked a lot about product on these, but I felt like we couldn't not. Other suppliers don't go getting ideas. The other episodes will be going back a lot more chatty, but honestly, if you're a letting agent or in any way involved in lettings and property management and you're watching this, have a look. It will scare the fucking daylights out of you. But like I said, the nice thing that came with that is that solution. And I was saying to you, Anne and I as partners, we were literally having a conversation yesterday, and she wasn't even aware we were doing the demo in chat today, about our business and the complexity of what we now do, and how that is just going to keep getting more complex, and what that means for us as a business and how we charge our clients.
I get that.
It's got to be commercially
the charging the clients thing is a big thing. It's such a difficult time because there's an exponential amount of work that needs to happen. But as you say, it's like, okay, so we might have to charge landlords more money when we have licensable and more complex properties. But it's how we relay that value to them. As you said, like, so I my feedback from some agents, I don't want to show them this or blah blah blah, but your feedback was, no, let's show them it. Let's ensure that they know that what we're taking care of, why we're taking care of it, why we need to do it,
why they need us.
I don't need to train my team because I've got the answers and I can just tell them that this alarm system is going in.
Still train your team.
But the
still trained it. I would never supplement.
But you can't to the you literally can't to the level that you need to this level.
No, you won't be able to train the team to the technical ability.
Like a technical team, but like they have to have a training of understanding, of course. But to go into the nuance of it is a full compliance role. Like, I spent my entire 8.5 years trying to convince people that I'm not an expert, because an expert in licensing is an environmental health officer accredited by the Charters of Environmental Health. Full stop. Same RT fire planners, IFE fire risk assessors. These are all independent accreditations and independent expertise. Nobody's an expert in all of them, but we can have we can have the right systems, the right process, and a basic understanding. So when you say something to a landlord, the landlord doesn't like, that doesn't sound right. You're saying it with conviction, with knowledge, with expertise, with the right information at your fingertips. That's what leads a landlord goes, oh no, I this person is saying it with conviction. They know what they're talking about. I won't challenge that. I know what they're trying to do to keep me safe.
Yeah, nice. Well, like I said, guys, if you are in any way involved in lettings business, if you haven't already taken a look at Yuno, make this busy man even busier. Take a look. It will slightly scare you, but also it will give you a bit of peace of mind about maybe something you've been dancing around for a little while. I know I'm going to be having a very serious chat with Anne this afternoon. Dude, it's been a pleasure. It's actually been, knowing you for a few years, it's been really nice. I didn't know your developer background, so that was nice to know. You might have probably told me at some events where I was seriously more inebriated than you were as a teetotal human being.
No, it was really interesting to sit and have and go away from the industry networking event versions of ourselves and actually be professional gentlemen.
Exactly. Makes a nice change. But yeah, no, honestly, if you work in lettings, have a little look. I think probably the only thing you might regret is the fact it's going to scare the bejesus out of you, but you need to know what you don't know. You need to know where the risk is in your business. And yeah, this I can't think of anything else that's gonna eliminate or massively reduce risk within your business right now, and what is a very, very challenging landscape for us all. So, dude, it's been an absolute pleasure. Sorry we didn't have more time. Yeah. Cheers, guys. Hope you like it. Do check it out. Come back with comments. Spread the word, because we all need tools that help us get through the day-to-day, and this is a big one. So cheers, buddy.
Thank you.
Guys. See you next time.
Ciao.
Bye.
See you later.